All right, hi everyone. It is Wes with Pikes Peak Trades, and after a one weekend hiatus away from my video updates, I wanted to get back in and make sure that I give you guys a really comprehensive look at where I think we're at in the markets, looking at the major indices and ETFs and individual stocks that I follow. So, end of the week, always a great idea to take a look at some weekly charts. We're going to see some interesting things. You're going to notice a lot of inside weeks. So, an inside week is when the weekly candles, low and high, are entirely inside the previous week, and that's exactly what we see here on the S&P 500. Now, the typical view of an inside week is its consolidation in support of continuation of the current trend. So that does suggest that this current uptrend that we've had, especially since the end of October, is going to continue. So I maintain my intermediate to long-term bullish stance. You can see the S&P still solidly within above this longer term rail that was broken very solidly on the week that ended November 13th and then held this week, and also above this bull channel that is extended and anchored all the way back from the March lows. Now you are going to see a projection for some very short-term weakness, but I do see solidly this uptrend continuing. Now, because this is Elliott wave based, this is a probability scenario, we do want to consider the possibility of bearish breakdown. The only thing that would get me nervous here is if the next weekly candle breaks both of these rails and closes below this blue 8-week EMA, which would be a weekly close below. It would start to kind of peak over. It'd probably be in the 34.65 range by the end of the week, maybe even a little bit lower. That'd be the only thing that would get me thinking that possibly we're looking at some type of expanded flat scenario to finish out an intermediate two. You're going to see some potentially different counts on other ETFs, but that's the only thing that would get me more bearish. I really do think the longer term trend is up. Now, I'll just take you through kind of in order each one into the daily. Now, the reason why I'm short term bearish, we did see here really since the beginning of the week, we see some lower highs and a lower low placed in here on this would be on Thursday's candle, and a close on Friday on some end of day weakness that did close below the 8-day EMA, which for my trend following system, I'm seeing that 8-day EMA start to round over, and we got that close beneath it. So my primary count here in black is calling for early weakness into Monday, Tuesday. Now, again, not overly bearish. I really would only be overly bearish if we see some of these rails start to break. I do think a retest of some of these moving averages, maybe in the mid 3400s, does seem possible. Now, of course, I could easily be wrong, and that inside week candle that you just saw could just lead to blast off continuation. That's why I do want to leave the possibility of this very bullish purple alt. In that case, we would just see a blast off right through 3610 and then all the way back solidly into the upper parts of this channel. Getting into the short term, I've been tweeting out this week my suggestion that a really good short-term trend following tool is the 200 period moving average on the 15-minute chart. And taking you all the way back to what I have as the minor one top in the middle of October, you're going to notice that when that trend curves down, when that MA curves down and we break beneath it and we start to move down with back testing, that's when we can be pretty sure that we've got a swing trend down. Now, to the upside, look at how that broke during election week. Broke with a test strongly up, another test, and into at this point, what I think we're starting to roll over into this minute two wave. So we actually did get one daily close this week, Wednesday, beneath it, a test Thursday right at it, and we then closed again with end of day selling into the end of this week again beneath it. And that's another piece of evidence that has me think that we've got some short-term bearishness coming up. Now, let me get you into here on the weekly. We're just going to go through an order. QQQ, your NASDAQ 100, a very interesting candle. A tiny range week on volume on Qs, the lowest volume week of any week since the March lows. That's got my attention. I don't know exactly what to interpret from it. I'm simply saying it's interesting to get a candle that looks like this week on volume that low. I had to go all the way back into January of this year, and the week that followed, it opened initially about 2% lower, but then recovered through the week. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. We could see that rhyme a little bit for this week. Okay, now again, only going to get any more bearish if we see this rail decisively break and we start seeing some moving average breakdown. So I do have here an alternate count. There's kind of two versions. We could see double rail support if there's anything more bearish about maybe 271, 272. And then I've got that intermediate two more bearish count, which would match with the SPX. But then again, it's an inside week candle, and what we see as an uptrend from the lows in late September. So got to leave in the possibility as we move here to the daily chart that what we've just seen is just kind of the nested 1 and 2. And that would be the very, very bullish purple count. And if that's going to play out, then we're going to see it immediately. Monday would be a big gap up. And then we would see a run for the rest of the week. Now, we didn't get, unlike SPX, we didn't get the daily close Friday beneath the 8-day, but then we did see a sell-off in the post-market hours. So even within this purple count, I'm calling for some temporary weakness. Here you can see one of those more bearish counts if we do get this triangle to play out. So on the short term, you'll see that movement right at the close on Friday underneath that 200 period MA on the 15-minute chart. That actually did get me short. I did enter into November 27 put options on the Qs, thinking that I could take a short-term shot at some early weakness going into Monday, Tuesday. Now we're going to see that could easily reverse. That's the first daily close this week that QQQ had underneath that MA. So this could just be a test that resolves itself in that purple count higher. Okay, let me take you through on the weeklies now. I want to show you Amazon. I had already shown and tweeted out Apple's inside week. Here's Amazon's inside week. And again, a very low volume week for Amazon, kind of some of the lowest that we've seen since March, with an interesting hammer. Now, it could be a bullish inverted. That's what bulls would say, that you've got an inside bullish inverted candle. I kind of had to go back a ways. Within what I think is starting at least still a downtrend all the way back here into early March, and what followed was not pretty on Amazon. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen. I'm just saying there's a pattern that suggests when we roll over, we got kind of a similar candle here as we did to the previous week with this type of inverted hammer. I'm just not sure. It's got me cautious on Amazon. So if I take you through here to Amazon's daily, you're going to see continued repelling at the 8-day EMA. And I do want to point out all of Amazon's major moving averages are now inverted. What does that mean? You've got the 8 under the 21, under the 34, under the 50. And that is concerning. That is what you see during downtrends. Let me take you, what do you see during uptrends? Look back here, the huge trend from the end of July to August. You see 50, below the 34, below the 21, below the 8. So that's got my attention. Again, I'm not overly bearish, but I do think as we move into the short-term chart here on Amazon, I do think we've got that movement towards the end of day solidly beneath that 200 period MA. And Amazon it is a gap filling beast. There is a gap between 30, 35, and 30, 50. It is rare for Amazon not to close gaps. So I did take a chance. I bought a very, very small number of November 27 puts. If you're going to play that in Amazon, you got to be right away. Amazon is extremely volatile and rich in premium. And if you're wrong, you got to get out immediately. So if I see any type of gap up reversal off of this end of day selling on Monday, I got to get out. But I do think there is a chance for some short-term weakness, possibly to close that gap, possibly even to go lower than what I'm charting here as a double zigzag wave W at 3019. Okay, let me get you into some more weeklies. So Facebook, interesting here, weekly, another inside week. I want you to notice though, Facebook this week lost what I think is an important lower supporting rail anchored from August. It did keep its 8-week, sorry, this is actually the 13-week. It would have actually been below its 8-week EMA if I just quickly change that setting. So let me just quickly in real time here on the video just alter that. You're going to see we got the 8-week close below on Facebook. So yes, I do think still some evidence here to warrant some temporary bearishness. Again, I'm not being uber bearish, but we've got Facebook beneath its 8, 21, and 34-day EMAs and kind of sandwich here in between the 34 and the 50. So again, it's possible this inside week and day resolves itself very bullishly upward. I'm going to give the probability again favoring some temporary downside weakness. And when I show you that here on the short term with Facebook, you're going to see it never even really challenged that 200 period MA, solidly below. I think this horizontal support, which would line up with this wave W, the first of the zigzag, I think that would be the target, possibly an 88% retrace if we do in fact get that weakness. Okay, some other interesting weeklies for you. Of course, you're going to want to see Tesla. So what a week on Tesla. You know, I didn't catch any of this. 20% up this week. And, you know, I've got a lot of different counts in the work for Tesla. So we're going to see whether we have some topping in the 550 to 580 range or if Tesla just goes berserk and follows my bullish purple. Let me get you now into, for Tesla, a pretty good look on the daily. So Tesla set the new all-time high, pulled back beneath it, and did have another inside day. So you would say in this trend, the inside day would lead to more continuation. Totally possible that we see an actual target hit at my fib extension here at 515 before any type of pullback. Totally possible. I've got some different varying degree fours as a pullback if Tesla is consistent with what I'm projecting as some more market-wide weakness. On the short term for Tesla, pretty good look here at where I think Tesla kind of settled the end of the week in between this range area. We're going to see what happens early in the week on Tesla. Okay, continuing to move through, I want to get you through some other indices and your ETFs, and then I want to get you into some more individual charts. So financials, industrial, small caps have been where the strength is. And what I want to point out here on the weekly, we obviously got an all-time weekly closing high on IWM. That is not bearish at all. You can see my very ambitious bullish targets for small caps. But I want to point out, typically when you see stretching this far away from these important moving averages, this is on the weekly, you do see some pullback back towards them. So I do think we can see that early in the week again consistently. Now, the bulls would argue that we've already got kind of this bull pennant here, and we could absolutely see continuation up to finalize my minor 3 target if we get the bullish resolutions. I do think, like you just saw in the weekly, that we do get some pullback here, excuse me, towards some of these levels to maybe revisit the breakout. So let me move you now into what I would say on the short term. We see a close beneath this rail, haven't yet tested that 200 period MA on the 15 minute. I think that could get tested. You can see I've got some of those targets a little bit lower. Now let me get you into XLF. So really like financials, and my XLF daily and 15-minute charting has just been spot on. You can see again, we've got since March, we've got the highest weekly close that we've had. You're starting to see those MAs invert to the bullish side on the daily here. On XLF, we're going to see, we already had a test of the 8-day starting to round over. We could see that minute 4 could be done, and we could see continued strength. You're going to remember 2 weeks ago, Monday opens and small caps, industrials, and financials go boom, way up, and tech sells off. Not saying that's going to happen again Monday, saying it's possible based on my Elliott wave. Otherwise, we could see some small settling down here for financials. I don't think these gaps of recognition are going to fill. I don't think this gap fully fills on either small caps. I think it is the gap of recognition, the 3 of 3 of 3. We're talking about sub-degree within minute, within minor, within intermediate. I think that doesn't fill. Again, just temporary weakness. Okay, an individual name, getting into some individual names here, and then metals real quickly. Really like Morgan Stanley. I think Morgan Stanley could see a little bit of pullback along with financials. This is one on any significant pullback, like a test of this rail. I'm probably going to take some chances, maybe even on some leverage on a name like Morgan Stanley. Okay, so let me now move, before I get into metals to finish, into some other interesting individual names. Beyond is one that I've been watching just since its earnings collapse. And it is possible that Beyond it put in an intermediate low and is moving up. I don't have a position. I'm not advocating for one. I'm just saying it's interesting to watch whether we are actually seeing a completion of a primary C, okay, or if we've got a new uptrend. Just one to keep your eye on. Don't have a lot of any exciting information to share. Just know that it is on my radar. Okay, some industrials that I'm just loving. Some blue chippers here in the Dow. Honeywell has just been incredible. If Honeywell pulls back to any of these minuet targets, I'm going to be a buyer. It's already touched its 8-day. That could be support. It could just keep blasting up towards these targets. Honeywell, solid play in the Dow. And Boeing got everybody's attention with just a massive week. A little bit of reversion back towards, if we do see the early weakness that I'm calling for, I will add to my Boeing position if it approaches closer to that 8-day EMA, and you see that minute target there. Okay, AMD, kind of a darling within your chip maker semiconductor, but still within kind of this area of resistance that it's going to have to prove. I've got it maybe ready for a pullback, and then a blast off through. That would align itself with kind of my general market view right now on AMD. Roku, a great name for me. Roku, just such a strong, solid week, a 10% up day on Thursday, continuation of almost 3% on Friday. Roku is a name that might just march upwards and not correct quite as much because I still have it solidly within a wave 3 of this minor 3. Walmart, so possibly just kind of a bull pennant here, continuation within. I'm still bullish and holding a core position in Walmart. We're going to see if it pulls back any more to these targets. It may not. Very ambitious targets towards the end of the year, upwards in Walmart. Okay, now some individual names I get some questions about. I love fielding questions and trying to do chart requests for what I'm charting on Twitter, is DraftKings. So I've got DraftKings pretty solidly within a minute 3 of minor 1, looking for the 54 to 56 target area in the short run on DraftKings. How about Netflix? So Netflix, one that you're going to notice, I got to point this out, the inverted daily EMAs. You see the 34 below the 50 simple, 21 below that, 8 below that. It has me a little bit cautious for possibly a truncated top and moving in a 3-wave down to lows in maybe the beneath 463 towards the lower 400s before its earnings come out early in 2021. So I don't have a solid recommendation either way, just to say its moving average setup has me cautious. That's going to have to reverse in order for me to get more interested in Netflix. Okay, for individual names, I'll finish with Zoom. I've been charting and talking about how I'm still longer term bearish in Zoom, but we did get very strong movements up towards this rail and some intermediate wave B targets. If I move you to the short term here on Zoom, I think we could see a rail tag. And if we see that and we don't see follow through beyond that rail, I would be tempted to short Zoom. So that's just a recommendation for a little risk that I might be willing to take. We're going to see how that all plays out. Okay, we'll finish with metals and miners. And metals and miners really has just been extremely frustrating. I don't know if the selling is done. We got support on GDX at the 200-day SMA and a little bit of movement up. We could see a flush with stocks if that happens early in the week. Again, look at the inverted daily moving averages. You can tell by the tone of my voice, I'm very disappointed because my silver miners plays, we got inverted looking hammer candles and on something like CDE, a bearish engulfing. So I'm disappointed we haven't seen a run up. It's possible if we see early weakness this coming week in stocks that it just spills over into the miners. I still have important decisions to make on whether I'm going to allocate my capital there going into the future, maybe a capitulation happening soon. Okay, that's all I've got for this one. Hope you enjoyed everything. An exciting week. You can see it's binary. Is it big up or big down? We're going to find out soon. As always, thanks for the likes and follows on Twitter. Send some questions if you have them. Hope you have a great weekend.